What if some of the biggest names from Hollywood's golden age were brushing shoulders with organized crime while cameras were rolling and fans were cheering? For decades, the movie business and the underworld often operated in the same cities, the same clubs, and sometimes the same social circles. Tonight we count down 20 old Hollywood stars whose lives became tangled with dangerous mafia groups. Tonight Fist. Number 20. Debbie Reynolds. At first glance, Debbie Reynolds seems like the least likely person to appear on a list like this. She built her reputation on charm, optimism, and family-friendly entertainment. Yet behind the bright lights, there was a surprising connection that later drew attention from investigators. During the height of her career, Reynolds expanded her interests beyond acting and singing. Business ventures became part of her growing empire. One of those ventures eventually attracted scrutiny because federal investigators believed criminal elements had gained influence within parts of the operation. While Reynolds herself was never accused of being a mob figure, the controversy placed her uncomfortably close to a world she had never publicly embraced. What makes the story fascinating is the contrast. Audiences saw the smiling star from classic musicals, while behind the scenes authorities were examining connections that stretched into organized crime territory. It was not the sort of headline anyone expected to see attached to America's sweetheart. The situation never destroyed her reputation, but it remains one of the stranger examples of how even the most wholesome Hollywood image could end up crossing paths with dangerous people operating in the shadows. Number 19. Donna Drake. Long before crime dramas dominated television, Donna Drake found herself connected to a story that sounded like it came straight from one. The glamorous actress became romantically involved with Louis Pretty Amberg, a notorious gangster whose name carried serious weight in criminal circles. At the time Drake was building a promising career in Hollywood, she enjoyed attention from studios and audiences alike. Yet her association with Amberg brought her into a world where loyalty was demanded and danger was always nearby. Amberg was not merely a flashy figure with a questionable reputation. He was involved in violent conflicts that regularly made headlines. As rival gangs battled for influence, his name repeatedly surfaced in reports about organized crime activity. That reality placed Drake alarmingly close to events far removed from movie premieres and studio lots. When Amberg was eventually killed in a gangland attack, Drake gained a first-hand lesson about how dangerous the criminal world could become. She wisely moved away from those connections and continued her career elsewhere. Her story serves as a reminder that Hollywood glamour often existed only a few steps away from some of the most feared figures of the era. Number 18. June Lang. Unlike many stars who unknowingly drifted near organized crime, June Lang entered a relationship that would later reveal just how complicated life around mob figures could be. The actress married Johnny Roselli before his criminal reputation became widely understood by the public. Roselli was more than a well-connected businessman. Over time, investigators identified him as one of the most influential mob figures operating between Hollywood and organized crime networks. He had relationships that extended into casinos, labor organizations, and entertainment circles. For Lang, the marriage seemed promising at first. Roselli possessed charm, influence, and connections that opened doors. Yet the deeper truth behind his activities eventually became impossible to ignore. As stories emerged regarding his criminal associations, the image of a successful producer began to crumble. Lang ultimately distanced herself from Roselli and moved forward with her life. Looking back, the relationship became one of the clearest examples of Hollywood's long-standing overlap with powerful underworld personalities. Her experience demonstrates how easy it was for rising stars to become entangled with individuals whose public image concealed far darker realities waiting beneath the surface. Number 17. Donna Reed. Few actresses projected warmth and trustworthiness quite like Donna Reed. Throughout the golden age of Hollywood, she became known for portraying dependable characters who represented stability and kindness. That image made her connection to mob figure Johnny Roselli all the more surprising. During the 1940s, Reed became romantically involved with Roselli at a time when his criminal activities were not fully understood by much of the public. To many people, he appeared sophisticated and successful. Behind that polished exterior, however, stood a man who would later be recognized as one of organized crime's most influential operators. Roselli maintained relationships that stretched from entertainment circles to powerful crime families. His ability to move comfortably through both worlds made him a unique figure. For Hollywood personalities, the distinction between businessman and mob associate was not always obvious. Reed eventually moved on and built one of the most respected careers in the industry. Yet her brief connection to Roselli remains a fascinating reminder of how deeply organized crime figures could embed themselves within elite social circles. The story is not about criminal involvement on Reed's part. Instead, it illustrates how easily stars could find themselves sharing their lives with people whose true identities were hidden behind charm, wealth, and influence. In Hollywood's golden era, appearances often concealed far more than anyone imagined. Number 16. Tony Bennett. Before Tony Bennett became one of the most beloved singers in American history, he spent years performing wherever opportunities appeared. Many of those opportunities happened to exist in venues controlled by powerful organized crime interests. Nightclubs were the lifeblood of entertainers during the era. Unfortunately, many of the most profitable clubs operated under the influence of mob figures. Performers who wanted exposure often found themselves working in environments where gangsters occupied the best tables in the room. Bennett developed a reputation as a talented performer, capable of captivating any audience. His growing success brought him into contact with influential individuals connected to organized crime networks. Stories from the period describe encounters that occasionally placed him in uncomfortable situations. One incident reportedly involved a relationship dispute that resulted in Bennett receiving a harsh lesson from people who did not appreciate interference in their affairs. While he avoided becoming deeply entangled in criminal activity, the experience revealed how dangerous those circles could become. Unlike some entertainers who welcomed underworld protection, Bennett focused on building a career through talent and perseverance. Even so, his early years provide a revealing glimpse into a music industry where organized crime often controlled the stage's careers and opportunities that aspiring stars depended upon. Number 15. Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby was one of the most recognizable entertainers on the planet. His voice dominated radio. His films filled theaters. His influence stretched across multiple generations. Yet even a star of his stature found himself moving through environments where organized crime held considerable power. Crosby loved gambling. That passion frequently drew him toward private games and exclusive gatherings, where mob influence was difficult to avoid. During the middle decades of the 20th century, many gambling operations existed under criminal control. Anyone participating regularly was likely to encounter figures connected to organized crime. Reports from the era suggest that federal authorities occasionally paid attention to some of Crosby's associations. Investigators were interested in understanding who attended certain events and who benefited from the money flowing through those circles. There is no evidence that Crosby became a member of any criminal organization. The significance of his story lies in how normalized mob presence had become within certain forms of entertainment and recreation. Powerful gangsters often mingled with celebrities, athletes, and businessmen in the same rooms. For Crosby, these relationships appear to have been products of lifestyle rather than criminal ambition. Still, his story demonstrates how even one of America's most beloved stars could end up operating in social circles where organized crime figures were never very far away. Number 14. Jackie Wilson. Step into the music world of the 1950s, and one reality becomes impossible to ignore. Organized crime had influence in many corners of the industry. For Jackie Wilson, that environment became part of the landscape he navigated while rising toward stardom. Wilson possessed extraordinary talent. His stage presence electrified audiences, and his vocal ability separated him from nearly every competitor of the era. Success arrived quickly, but the business surrounding that success was often controlled by people whose interests extended far beyond entertainment. His manager, Nat Tarnopol, was frequently linked to figures with organized crime associations. Those relationships helped open doors and secure opportunities that many performers struggled to obtain. At the same time, they brought Wilson into proximity with powerful individuals whose methods operated outside conventional business practices. Unlike the characters seen in crime films, these figures rarely advertised their influence. They worked behind the scenes, shaping careers and controlling access to valuable industry connections. Wilson benefited professionally from some of those relationships, but also found himself moving through a world where loyalty and reputation carried enormous consequences. His story highlights a period when talent alone was not always enough. Success often required navigating networks that included people capable of helping careers flourish, while simultaneously maintaining ties to organized crime organizations operating behind the curtain. Number 13. Joe DiMaggio. Most people remember Joe DiMaggio as a baseball icon. Yet his celebrity status and connection to Hollywood placed him within circles where organized crime figures frequently appeared. The combination of sports fame and entertainment glamour made him a natural attraction for powerful personalities. Stories linking DiMaggio to members of the Gambino crime family circulated for years. Much of the evidence remains circumstantial, but the connections were persistent enough to become part of his public narrative. He reportedly spent time in establishments associated with influential mob figures and maintained friendships that fueled speculation. The marriage between DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe only intensified public curiosity. Monroe herself moved through social circles that included people linked to organized crime. Together, they became one of the most famous couples in America and attracted attention from every direction. What separates DiMaggio's story from many others is the subtle nature of the connections. There were no dramatic arrests or explosive scandals. Instead, there existed a pattern of relationships and associations that repeatedly placed him near powerful underworld personalities. Whether viewed as coincidence or evidence of deeper ties, the story remains one of the most enduring examples of how organized crime and celebrity culture often overlapped during the middle decades of the 20th century. Number 12. Cary Grant. Imagine being one of the most elegant and admired stars in Hollywood history, while rumors circulate that organized crime may have helped shape parts of your rise to fame. That unusual situation followed Cary Grant long after he became a global icon. Grant represented sophistication. Audiences admired his confidence, intelligence, and effortless screen presence. Few actors seemed further removed from the rough world of organized crime. Yet stories connecting him to underworld influence emerged through accounts attributed to Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana. According to later claims, some actors received assistance from criminal organizations seeking influence within Hollywood. Grant's name occasionally surfaced in those discussions. The allegations remain controversial, and historians continue debating their reliability. Regardless of whether every claim is accurate, the fact that such stories persisted demonstrates how closely Hollywood and organized crime were perceived to be connected. Powerful mob figures often sought relationships with stars because celebrity status carried enormous value and influence. Grant never became known as a criminal associate. His significance within this countdown comes from the enduring belief that organized crime figures saw Hollywood as a territory worth cultivating, and that even its biggest stars could become part of those networks. The result is one of the most intriguing mysteries from Hollywood's golden age, where fact, rumor, and legend continue blending together decades after the final curtain fell. Number 11. Phyllis McGuire. Not every Hollywood connection to organized crime happened behind closed doors. In the case of Phyllis McGuire, the relationship became front-page news and sparked endless discussion throughout the entertainment industry. As one-third of the enormously successful McGuire sisters, she enjoyed fame that stretched across America. The group projected a wholesome image that appealed to families and television audiences. That reputation faced serious challenges when McGuire became involved with Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana. Giancana was one of the most feared and influential crime figures of his era. His name appeared regularly in investigations and intelligence reports. Despite the controversy surrounding him, The relationship continued attracting attention wherever they went. The association created tension both professionally and personally. Fans were fascinated while critics questioned how closely entertainers should interact with figures from organized crime. Media coverage only intensified as investigators examined Giancana's activities. Maguire eventually moved on, but the relationship remains one of the most famous examples of a major entertainment figure becoming linked to a powerful mafia leader. Decades later, it still serves as a reminder that celebrity culture and organized crime often intersected in ways that were impossible for the public to ignore. Number 10. Jayne Mansfield. Jayne Mansfield built a career around glamour, confidence, and larger-than-life publicity. Yet one chapter of her life connected her to a figure whose reputation inspired fear rather than admiration. During the late 1950s, Mansfield became involved with Sonny Franzese. Unlike many gangsters who operated behind the scenes, Franzese was widely recognized as one of the Colombo family's most powerful leaders. His influence extended across numerous criminal enterprises, and his reputation commanded respect throughout organized crime circles. Their relationship immediately attracted attention because it united two very different worlds. Mansfield represented Hollywood spectacle, while Franzese embodied the hidden power of the mafia. Newspapers eagerly followed every development, and public fascination grew rapidly. What made the story remarkable was the genuine affection many observers believed existed between them. This was not merely a publicity stunt or fleeting encounter. Reports from the period suggested a real connection despite the obvious complications surrounding Franzese's lifestyle. For Mansfield, the relationship added another layer to an already dramatic public image. For organized crime observers, it provided yet another example of how mob leaders sought relationships with famous entertainers. Even decades later, the pairing remains one of the most talked-about celebrity and mafia connections ever documented. Number 9. Jean Harlow. Long before organized crime became a favorite subject of Hollywood films, Jean Harlow was already living a story that seemed pulled from one. The platinum blonde superstar became associated with Abner Longy Zwillman, one of the most influential underworld figures operating during the 1930s. Harlow was among the biggest attractions in the movie industry. Her popularity gave her enormous value to studios searching for bankable stars. At the same time, Zwillman possessed financial resources and influence that extended into legitimate businesses as well as criminal enterprises. According to long-standing accounts, Zwillman played a role in helping advance Harlow's career opportunities through relationships with powerful figures in the entertainment world. Whether every detail is accurate remains debated, but the stories have endured for generations. What makes Harlow's case especially significant is the period in which it occurred. Organized crime was expanding rapidly and searching for new ways to increase influence. Hollywood represented an attractive target because fame offered legitimacy and access to powerful social networks. Harlow never carried the image of a criminal associate. Instead, her story reflects how ambitious mob figures sometimes sought proximity to rising stars, whose success could benefit everyone involved. The result is one of the earliest and most fascinating examples of organized crime, intersecting with Hollywood celebrity culture on a grand scale. Number 8. Lana Turner. Hollywood scandals rarely became bigger than the story surrounding Lana Turner and Johnny Stompanato. What began as a relationship soon evolved into one of the most infamous celebrity and mafia stories of the 20th century. Turner was among the most recognizable actresses in America. Her films generated millions, and her private life attracted enormous public interest. When she became involved with Stompanato, she entered a relationship with a man connected to powerful organized crime interests and known for a dangerous reputation. Unlike many mob figures who avoided attention, Stompanato often appeared in public alongside celebrities. His presence generated concern among studio executives who feared the impact such associations could have on major stars. Reports described a volatile personality and a growing sense of tension surrounding the relationship. The situation eventually exploded into tragedy when Stompanato died during a confrontation inside Turner's home. The incident generated worldwide headlines and became one of Hollywood's defining scandals. Although Turner herself was never part of organized crime, her close association with Stompanato revealed how easily major stars could become entangled with individuals operating within dangerous criminal networks. The story remains a powerful example of the risks that sometimes accompanied fame during Hollywood's golden era. Number 7. Marilyn Monroe. When discussions turn to Hollywood legends, few names shine brighter than Marilyn Monroe. Yet beneath the glamour and worldwide fame existed connections that repeatedly brought her into contact with figures linked to organized crime. One major factor was her friendship with Frank Sinatra. Sinatra's relationships with influential mafia figures have been debated for decades, and Monroe often found herself moving within the same social circles. Exclusive parties, luxury resorts, and private gatherings frequently included individuals whose reputations extended far beyond legitimate business. Stories connecting Monroe to organized crime have grown over the years. Some are supported by documented associations, while others remain little more than speculation. What is clear is that she regularly encountered people connected to powerful criminal organizations during a period when entertainment and organized crime often overlapped. Monroe's life attracted attention from journalists, politicians, and investigators alike. Every friendship became a subject of curiosity. Every appearance generated new rumors. As a result, her connections to figures within Sinatra's orbit became part of a larger mythology surrounding her life. The fascination continues because Monroe represents more than a movie star. She symbolizes an era when celebrity culture operated alongside hidden networks of influence, where mobsters, entertainers, and powerful businessmen sometimes occupied the very same rooms. Number 6. Sammy Davis Jr. Among the legendary members of the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr. possessed perhaps the most remarkable life story. His talent allowed him to conquer stages across America, but success often required navigating an entertainment industry where organized crime wielded considerable influence. During the middle decades of the 20th century, many major venues remained under direct or indirect control of mafia interests. Performers seeking top billing frequently encountered individuals connected to powerful crime families. Davis was no exception. Former mob figures later claimed that organized crime maintained significant involvement in aspects of his career. These accounts suggest that certain criminal groups benefited financially from entertainment deals linked to major performers. While details remain debated, the stories have persisted for decades. What makes Davis's experience particularly important is the environment in which he worked. Las Vegas was rapidly becoming the entertainment capital of America, and organized crime played a major role in that transformation. Anyone performing at the highest level inevitably crossed paths with influential underworld figures. Despite these realities, Davis became one of the most respected entertainers of his generation. His achievements transcended controversy and established him as a cultural icon. Yet his story also reveals how deeply organized crime had embedded itself within portions of the entertainment industry during Hollywood's golden age, making it nearly impossible for top performers to avoid those connections entirely. Number 5. Dean Martin. Picture a young singer trying to break into the entertainment business during a period when many of the most successful clubs were controlled by organized crime. That was the reality Dean Martin faced before becoming one of the most beloved entertainers in America. Long before the Rat Pack became a cultural phenomenon, Martin spent years performing in nightclubs where mob influence was impossible to ignore. Club owners, promoters, and financial backers often maintained relationships with powerful crime families. For ambitious performers, these venues offered valuable opportunities that could launch careers almost overnight. According to numerous accounts, several gangsters took a liking to Martin's smooth style and relaxed personality. Those connections helped introduce him to influential people throughout the entertainment world. While Martin was never identified as a member of organized crime, the friendships he developed placed him close to some of the most powerful underworld figures of the era. As his fame grew, Martin continued operating within social circles, where celebrities and mobsters frequently mixed, Las Vegas in particular became a place where those worlds regularly overlapped. His story demonstrates how success in mid-century entertainment sometimes required navigating environments shaped by organized crime. Dean Martin emerged as a superstar, but the path to that success often passed through territory controlled by people far removed from Hollywood's glamorous image. Number 4. George Raft. Few actors possessed stronger connections to organized crime than George Raft. Unlike many celebrities who encountered gangsters later in life, Raft grew up alongside some of the most famous criminals in American history. Before becoming a Hollywood star, he spent his youth in neighborhoods where future mob legends, such as Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, were already building reputations. These were not distant acquaintances mentioned in newspaper stories. They were people Raft actually knew from his early years. When Hollywood began producing gangster films, Raft brought a level of authenticity few actors could match. He understood the personalities, the mannerisms, and the culture because he had witnessed it firsthand. That realism helped make him one of the defining crime movie stars of his generation. As his career expanded, he maintained friendships with several underworld figures. Those relationships fueled endless speculation about how close he remained to organized crime after achieving fame. While Raft always insisted he chose acting over crime, many observers believed his connections never completely disappeared. More than any other traditional Hollywood actor, Raft represents the bridge between the movie industry's fictional gangsters and the real criminals who inspired them. His life remains one of the clearest examples of how closely entertainment and organized crime could intersect during Hollywood's golden age. Number 3. Cary Grant. At first glance, Cary Grant seems like the most unexpected name near the top of this countdown. He was elegance personified. Audiences admired his sophistication, and studios viewed him as the perfect leading man. Yet behind that polished image lingered one of Hollywood's most intriguing organized crime mysteries. Years after Grant became a major star, stories emerged suggesting that powerful mob figures may have helped certain actors advance their careers. One of the most frequently cited sources for these claims was Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana. According to accounts attributed to him, organized crime maintained interests within parts of the entertainment industry and occasionally assisted promising talent. Grant's name appeared in some of those stories. Historians continue debating the accuracy of the allegations, and no definitive proof has ever emerged establishing a direct criminal relationship. Even so, the rumors endured, because they reflected a broader reality. Organized crime figures actively sought influence within Hollywood, and often cultivated relationships with celebrities. Whether Grant benefited from such support remains uncertain. What cannot be denied is that his name became permanently linked to discussions about mob influence in the movie business. The mystery surrounding those allegations has only grown stronger, with time making Cary Grant one of the most fascinating figures in Hollywood's long history of organized crime connections. Number 2. Frank Sinatra. When people talk about Hollywood stars and mafia connections, one name almost always rises above the rest: Frank Sinatra. For decades, his relationship with organized crime figures became the subject of investigations books, documentaries, and endless public debate. Sinatra's rise from struggling singer to international superstar was extraordinary. Along the way, he developed friendships with several powerful men connected to organized crime. Photographs, meetings, and witness accounts repeatedly placed him in the company of major mafia figures, including some of the most influential bosses in America. What made Sinatra's story so fascinating was the scale of his celebrity. He was not simply a singer or actor. He was a cultural force whose influence stretched across entertainment, politics, and business. That influence naturally attracted people seeking access to power and prestige. Sinatra consistently denied having criminal ties. He argued that many accusations were exaggerated, and that friendships did not make someone part of organized crime. Nevertheless, government agencies spent years examining his associations and tracking his interactions with known mob leaders. Whether viewed as a loyal friend or a man operating dangerously close to the underworld, Sinatra became the face of Hollywood's mafia connection. No discussion of organized crime and entertainment can avoid his name. His story remains one of the most famous examples of celebrity power intersecting with criminal influence in 20th century America. Number 1. George Raft. Before Hollywood created legendary gangster movies, there was George Raft. Before audiences saw glamorous crime dramas, there was George Raft. And before most actors learned how to portray mobsters convincingly, there was George Raft living among the people who inspired those characters. Unlike many names on this countdown, Raft's connection to organized crime began long before fame arrived. Growing up in New York placed him alongside future underworld legends such as Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel. These relationships were real, personal, and well documented. He knew these men before they became infamous. As Raft entered Hollywood, his unique background gave him an advantage no acting coach could teach. He understood how gangsters talked, how they behaved, and how they carried themselves. Directors recognized that authenticity and quickly made him one of cinema's most recognizable crime stars. Even after achieving success, he remained associated with numerous underworld figures. Stories of meetings, friendships, and social connections followed him throughout his career. While he avoided becoming a criminal himself, many observers believed he maintained closer ties to organized crime than almost any other major actor of the era. George Raft occupies the #1 position because his life represents the strongest bridge between real-world organized crime and classic Hollywood. He did not merely portray gangsters on screen. He came from the very environment that produced them. Hollywood sold audiences dreams of glamour, success, and stardom. Yet behind the cameras, another world often existed, just out of sight. From nightclub deals to powerful friendships, these stories reveal how organized crime and entertainment sometimes traveled the same road. Which connection surprised you the most? And which star do you think should have been higher on the countdown?